At Charmin, we know cruising isn't just about relaxation. Sometimes it requires raw human survival. Because when the ship catches fire, the toilets back up, and lunch is a soggy lettuce sandwich, your real loyalty isn't to a cruise line. It's to the roll that never let you down. Charmin Ultra Strong, softer than Carnival's apology, stronger than the little red bags, and more valuable than your loyalty status. Charmin. For when the ship hits the fan, they gutted my perks and didn't bat an eye, but they can't take away my double ply, now with smooth tear-wavy edges, making it even easier to flush your loyalty program down the drain.
I watched the new Netflix documentary about the Carnival Triumph poop cruise, and let's just say, I may never eat lasagna again. There's sewage, lawsuits, and a cruise director trying to hold it all together while everything goes to ship. And somehow, it was hilarious. Hey, what's up? It's Corey, and today we're diving into Netflix's Trainwreck, the Poop Cruise documentary. What shocked me, what made me laugh, and why this documentary might actually be the fairest portrayal of a cruise disaster I've ever watched. Going in, I was fully expecting another cruise industry smear piece. You know the type. Netflix grabs some scary headlines from the past, adds in their stock footage of thunderstorms and gloomy things, and suddenly cruising looks like the Titanic meets Fear Factor. But Trainwreck didn't go that route whatsoever. It opened with real stories, a surprisingly light tone, and one-liners I still can't stop laughing about. There's a moment in the documentary where a former ship cook uses the word lasagna to describe what was going on board the ship. That's all I'm going to tell you, but it's the most memorable line from the whole show. You'll know it when you hear it, and I had to pause just to rewatch that a couple times. I was laughing so hard. The documentary walks this weird but satisfying line between chaos and comedy. You're watching one of the worst cruise disasters ever to occur, but somehow you're laughing along with it. Not at the people, just at the sheer absurdity of how bad things got and how bizarrely cruise-like everyone tried to stay throughout. By the way, if watching people fight over chairs on the Lido deck is your kind of entertainment, then congrats, you're one of us. Grab your own Lido Deck People Watching Club shirt from my Amazon store to show off your cruising vibes. Limited judgment, unlimited people watching, link down below. Let's talk about the dramatizations in this docuseries or documentary. Because, yeah, Netflix added their signature slow motion, dim lighting cutscenes sort of throughout this. And yes, sometimes it felt a little much. But in this case, a lot of it worked. And while it occasionally dipped into some melodramaticness, it didn't take away from the story that they were telling. It made you feel like you were there, as a matter of fact, sweating right along with everyone else on the Lido deck. The strongest part of the documentary, though, hands down, was the interviews. They didn't just go find a bunch of angry people to scream about how bad Carnival is. They actually brought in real voices from across the ship and even from shore throughout this whole experience. From passengers, crew members, and the actual cruise director that was on the Triumph at the time starred massively in the documentary. And you know what? That kind of thing made all the difference. It gave this story depth. The crew didn't sugarcoat what happened at all, but they also didn't make excuses either and play like it was some sort of tragedy and play the victim. One crew member talked about trying to keep morale up throughout the whole thing, even while the ship was dead in the water with no lights, no power, nothing. The cruise director gave us insight into how difficult it was trying to manage the guest experience during a full-blown multi-day crisis. It was really eye-opening. And it wasn't just a disaster, it was a human story on the Triumph. And Netflix, they triumphed telling it. They let these folks who lived it speak for themselves. Even the Cruise Hive article that I was reading about this highlighted this fact. And Carnival had no involvement in this production, but they still praised it afterwards for being balanced and thoughtful in a press release that they released. This didn't ignore the suffering, but it also didn't turn into a full-blown horror show either. That kind of balance is rare. It's not easy to find that today, and it made the whole thing way more watchable. So what did Carnival have to say about all this? Let's be generous. Carnival doesn't have the best track record when it comes to public relations. Not then, and definitely not now. Carnival Rewards. So when I saw a major Netflix documentary was about to reopen the wounds of Triumph, I figured Carnival would ignore this or get super defensive. But I was wrong. According to Cruise Hive, Carnival has actually responded with a pretty mature statement. They took a good stance. They didn't deny the events occurred. They didn't try to spin it for something that it wasn't. In fact, they acknowledged what happened and pointed out how far the company has come since the 2013 incident. And that's not just talk. In fact, Carnival's invested billions into their fleet since then, adding new hotel operations, backup power systems, and overhauling the way that they handle emergencies. They're now actually starting to plan for things before they go down. They even highlighted the work of their crew during the incident, which Netflix also showcased in their documentary. To be honest, this might be one of the best PR moments that Carnival's had in years. But where the documentary hits the hardest, it's toward the end. The passengers are asked if they would ever go on another cruise. And surprisingly, well, I'm not going to tell you. You'll have to see it for yourself. The Decider article called this moment emotional, and I agree wholehearted. And I also laughed a little bit. Because after everything, after this ordeal in the Gulf of Mexico without working toilets, drifting across the Gulf, barely scraping by on sandwiches and sleeping under blankets outside, these people really responded well. And I think that's because when cruising is good, it's unbeatable. And when it's bad, it's still better than being delayed in an airport terminal far from home. And I think there's just a weird resilience that we as cruisers have. We have gone through some stuff on these cruises, especially if you cruised frequently or for a long time. But then we get home and we think about what we went through, and yet we still hit that book button like it never happened. So if you haven't seen this yet, Trainwreck, the poop cruise on Netflix, I think it's well worth your time. It's not some cheap disaster reel. This is not Godzilla versus Mothra. This is a weird, heartfelt, funny, and sometimes jaw-dropping look at one of cruising's most infamous moments. Let me know what you thought of the doc if you've seen it, or if you were actually on that sailing. Reach out to me via email. You can find it in my profile on here. And your time on the Midships, it doesn't end here. You know I got something more for you. Stick around and have a look at the signature Carnival cruise experience and what it's like now in 2025 aboard one of their flagship vessels. We'll see ya on the Midships.
La 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 la